Vatican has spent centuries denying rumors about hidden archives, missing people, forbidden books, secret prophecies, and alleged UFO encounters. From ancient mysteries buried beneath St. Peter's Basilica to secrets people believe are still locked behind Vatican walls, these are 10 things the Vatican has refused to acknowledge for centuries. People have said for a long time that the Catholic Church knows way more about outer space and aliens than it wants to let on. This idea doesn't just come out of nowhere. Vatican actually runs one of the oldest space science programs in the world. They have a whole team of star scientists and even have a huge telescope on a mountain out in Arizona. Rumors about the Vatican holding on to secret information about UFOs really took off in 2008 though, when Jesuit astronomer Father Jose Gabriel Funes said that believing in extraterrestrial life doesn't totally conflict with Catholic teaching, saying that if life exists elsewhere in the universe, it would just be another part of God's creation. A few years later, other Vatican officials made similar comments, saying the church isn't opposed to the idea of intelligent life beyond Earth, and to a lot of people, those statements sounded surprisingly open-minded. Were they slowly making steps toward preparing the public for something? Can't keep this stuff secret forever. Back in 1917, 3 young kids who took care of sheep in a town in Portugal said they saw visions of the Virgin Mary. They said she came to them a few times and told them 3 big secrets about the future. The first 2 prophecies were let out early on. One was a scary picture of hell, the other was a warning about a Second World War coming, but the third secret became a huge mystery. One of the kids, a girl named Sister Lucia, wrote the last secret down in 1944. She put it in an envelope and told the church it shouldn't be opened until 1960. Well, when 1960 rolled around, the Vatican looked at it but decided not to show anyone. Obviously, the big question was, what did she write down? Well, in 2000, the Vatican finally showed the text to the world. It described a vision of a pope walking up a hill past dead bodies before being shot dead by soldiers. The church said that this was a prediction about the attempt on Pope John Paul II's life in 1981, but a lot of people didn't buy that explanation. Some researchers and former Vatican insiders claimed part of the message was still missing, that Sister Lucia wrote a whole other page explaining what the vision actually meant. The church insists they showed everything, but people are still arguing about this today. In the summer of 1983, a 15-year-old girl named Emanuela Orlandi left her family's apartment inside the Vatican to go to a music lesson in Rome. She never came back. What started as a missing person case quickly turned into a massive mystery that the Vatican is still caught up in today. Right after she disappeared, strange people started calling her family. Some said she was kidnapped to force the Vatican to let a prisoner go, the man who'd tried to shoot the Pope a couple years before. Police looked into it, but it didn't lead anywhere. As time went on, the stories got weirder. Some people thought her disappearance had to do with bad guys who had money deals with the Vatican Bank, and that powerful people inside the church knew exactly where she was. In 2019, the Vatican opened 2 old graves in a cemetery because someone sent an anonymous note saying the girl's bones were inside, but when they opened them, the graves were completely empty. Right next to them, workers found thousands of other old bones hidden away, but none of them belonged to Emanuela. Vatican recently opened the case again to look for clues, but after more than 40 years, nobody knows what happened to her. Speaking of the Vatican Bank, that's another thing that people have told rumors about for a long time because it's incredibly private. Its official name is the Institute for the Works of Religion, and it was started in 1942 to keep track of the church's money. Regular people can't just go there and open a bank account. It's only for religious groups and people who work for the church. The big trouble started in the 80s when a major Italian bank went out of business because all its money vanished. The Italian bank had very close ties to the Vatican Bank. Vatican said it wasn't their fault the money disappeared, but it was a huge mess for the church. Then there was the man who ran the Italian bank, a guy named Roberto Calvi. People called him God's banker because he dealt with the church so often. Well, right after his bank went under, he was found dead hanging under a bridge in London. At first, people thought he might have taken his own life, but later on, the police thought someone might have killed him. Well, a few people went to court over it, but no one ever figured out the whole story. The Vatican ended up paying hundreds of millions of dollars to the people who lost money in the bank collapse, but they still maintained that they did nothing wrong. The Knights Templar was a powerful group of knights that formed between the years of 1118 and 1119, a small club of soldiers meant to protect travelers going to holy places, but over time they got bigger. They got rich, bought lots of land, and even lent money to kings. Having that much power made them some serious enemies though. 1307, the King of France ordered his men to arrest hundreds of the Templars all at once. They were accused of serious crimes against the church, including denying their faith and performing strange rituals. The French king made them confess to these things, but he used some pretty extreme methods to do it. Safe to say he went medieval on their asses. So put under that level of duress, most people don't think their confessions were genuine, but why did this happen? Well, many historians think the king just wanted their money and didn't want to pay back the loans that he owed them. The Pope at the time didn't want to destroy the Templars at first. In fact, an old paper found not long ago shows that the Pope actually forgave the leaders of the Templars, but the French king kept pushing, and in 1312 the Pope officially put an end to the order. That's when the myths started to form. People claim the Templars secretly stayed together and hid their gold and ancient secrets, and some even say they splintered off and eventually evolved into other groups like the Freemasons. In the early 1600s, a scientist named Galileo Galilei changed an idea that everyone had believed for a long time. It got him into huge trouble with the church. Galileo built a better telescope to look at the stars and planets, and when he looked up, he found proof that the Earth moves around the sun. Back then, the church and most leaders believed that the Earth stayed perfectly still right in the center of everything, and the sun moved around us. The church felt that Galileo's ideas went against the teachings of the Bible, and in 1633, the church put Galileo on trial, telling him to take back everything he said in public. They wouldn't let him leave his house for the rest of his life, but the Vatican slowly changed its mind over the years. They eventually let books about the Earth moving be printed, and then in 1992, Pope John Paul II finally came out and said the church was wrong for how they treated Galileo. For centuries, the Catholic Church has investigated claims of people experiencing what it considers possible demonic possession. Movies make this look like a horror show, but the Vatican treats it like a real medical and spiritual issue. The church says that most unusual cases have natural explanations, and priests are instructed to rule out medical or psychological causes before performing an exorcism, but the Vatican still recognizes possession as something that can happen, and it has official rules for how these cases should be handled. In 1999, the Vatican changed its official handbook on this for the first time in almost 400 years. The new rules told priests exactly what to do and warned them not to, again, confuse a normal sickness with something spiritual. The big secret, though, is what the Vatican still keeps hidden away. The document, by the way, is called the Rite of Exorcism. It gives priests a structured process to follow and warns against confusing illness with spiritual problems. The mystery, though, comes from what's still kept secret. The details of a lot of these real exorcism cases are confidential. The Vatican has plenty of records of strange events that have never made it public. That's not to say there are no well-known cases, though. The most famous story is, of course, the Anneliese Michel case, a young German woman whose supposed possession involved dozens of exorcisms and later became the inspiration for the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose. When we think of the Bible today, we usually picture a permanent collection of books that have always been the same, but back when Christianity was just starting out, there were actually dozens of different texts and stories floating around. Early church leaders eventually picked the ones they thought were authentic to build a New Testament, while rejecting the rest and labeling them as false teachings. These dropped books are called the apocryphal texts. They include writings named after figures like Thomas, Mary, and Judas. The stories inside them are completely different from the usual versions. For example, the Gospel of Judas doesn't paint him as a bad guy necessarily. Instead, it says he was actually Jesus' favorite disciple. He was just following secret orders to help put a bigger plan into motion. Well, for hundreds and hundreds of years, these books were totally lost. People only knew they existed because old church writers used to complain about them. But then, back in 1945, some farmers in Egypt dug up a giant clay jar, and inside were dozens of these lost books that had been buried for 1,500 years. And of course, there's one place in the Vatican that people talk about more than anywhere else, and that is the secret archives. The word secret actually just comes from an old Latin word for private. The rooms weren't built to hide things, they were just a giant filing cabinet for the Pope's personal letters and official paperwork. At least, that's the official story. The sheer size of the place is what gets people talking a lot. It holds millions of pages covering over 1,000 years of history. The original trial papers from when they locked up Galileo, old letters from European kings, notes written by Michelangelo and Abraham Lincoln. Only a few approved researchers ever get inside, and that's where the internet is full of crazy rumors. Everything we've talked about so far kind of leads back to this hidden vault. People swear the Vatican is hiding proof of UFOs in there, lost books of the Bible, and other secrets that could completely rewrite human history. The Vatican has always maintained that restrictions are just to keep the old, fragile paper from falling apart. The Pope even changed the official name a few years ago to get rid of the word secret, but I mean, rebrand or not, people are always going to wonder what's locked away behind those walls, and I can't say I blame them. That's been the video. I will catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next one.